Hi, everybody. Still got some more things to do. For some reason, it is not. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I just want to say hello to a few people. Of course, I will have technical difficulties because you all know that is not my strong suit. I am so excited to speak to Michael today. I just am he's a returning guest. I'm so excited. He's such a great guy. But let's just say hello to some people. I want to say hi to Sandra. I want to say hi to Gary Spikes, Senior Gary. I hope you're doing well. Let's all pray and send good vibes to Gary because he's just such a great guy, such a great friend of the show, a friend to all of us, great supporter. Hi, Karen. Hello, Kevin. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Kevin is another one of our moderators. Hi, Nancy. Let's see. Michelle. Welcome, Michelle. Let's see. We have Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca. Hopefully we won't need to stay out of the ditch today, but Rebecca and I have the tow truck on call, right? We'll try to behave today. And we have, I hate to miss any, we have Lorna. Hi, Lorna. This is so nice. People are just piling in. I love it. And I'm sorry if I miss you, because I really hate to do that. Hi, Roger. Roger is another one of our great moderators. Roger and Rebecca. Yeah, so glad to have you. Jolanta, welcome. Jean Hudson, good to see you. Dirt Road Bigfoot. Let's see. Rat Sass. Hello. Let's see. I think I have everybody. Karen. Yeah, I think we have everybody. So I'm going to have Michael join us. And hi, Denise. Denise is here too. Welcome. Hi, Chiro, Jane. Awesome to see you. So let's bring Michael in. Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me back as your guest again.
Of course, of course. We were supposed to have Michael. Oh, I don't know. Maybe was it like a month ago or 6 weeks ago, and I ended up. That was around the time some of you in the chat know. I overnight. I don't know. I still don't know. I just ended up like head to toe hives. It was. I was scary looking. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I put a little makeup on. No, no, no. My face was. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I'm, you know, the conspiracy theorist thinking, what did they spray on us now? You know, that I was exposed to. Who knows? I don't know. What do you think about that, Michael? That kind of you know, the cloud spraying in the sky, cloud, you know, clouds. What do you think about that?
What the chemtrails and things like that?
Yes, exactly.
I'm a believer in that. Yeah, I mean, we always have, you know, lots of clouds coming over here. The funny thing is, though, you know, sometimes when you're looking up at the sky is literally clear, and then the next minute you look up and you got the chemtrails, and there's not been any planes flying over. So you know that's quite interesting.
Yes,
and you know, I do think it what they're spraying does affect us.
Yes, yes. Hi, Rita. Around that time, which, you know, heightened my conspiracy theorist slant on all of this, is that a bunch of kids at a local elementary school came down with, I forget what they called it, like I think it's called Fifth's disease. It's like akin to chicken pox and whatever. Now, but I wasn't around any little kids, so there was no way that I would have, you know, if this is something that was, you know, known to be, you know, contagious, I wasn't around any,
No.
but was outside for a few days. So, you know, kids are outside, you know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going with this, but so, I want to properly introduce you. So for people that don't know, you are an author of this great book. The book is High Strangeness, A Lifetime of Alien and Paranormal Encounters. Michael, you were born in the East End of London. And do you still reside in Somerset in the UK? Are you still in that area?
I do.
All right. Okay. Your whole childhood and adult life has been the focus of paranormal and alien encounters. You're an intuitive empath and an astral projector. You love helping people and you love animals. I love that. That's awesome. So, what else? Give us a little bit of a more in-depth introduction about yourself. Is there anything else that you would like to, you know, would like us to know?
Well, I'm going to come to that in a moment, if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
So I was going to say that at the moment, I've put the writing of my second book on hold at the moment because of new information that I've received through various resources and that. And you know, I want to basically get the information clear in my head before I obviously want to, you know, put it onto, you know, a computer or on paper and then, you know, get it published. So, I mean, in the near future, I want to approach Misha Johnston to allow me to undergo regression with her because I'm, you know, from what I told, you know, she's very good at uncovering memories. So this is something I want to look at before I go on to, you know, writing my second book. You know, I have some experiences that I will put in, which were going to go into my first book about any of, you know, some of my abductions by the greys and various other types of creatures. But I didn't put that in there, but I'm going to put it in number 2. But the second book will more than I wanted the second book to go into much more to do with the military side of things. I mean, I describe myself as an alien abductee since birth, but I'm also a veteran of the secret space program and related projects and sub-projects that I've now come to understand I've belonged to and continue to belong to. From what I understand, that we're only partially removed from those projects until they want us to go back into them again. Often it seems like they give you an invitation to go back into them. What they're really saying is, if you don't go back into them voluntarily, we'll put so much pressure on you that you will, or, you know, as I've been told recently, will just come and get you and take you by force, you know. So, you know, I mean, whether they do that or not is another thing. But, you know, recently I've been, from information I've discovered about myself recently, you know, and some of the, I live in the countryside, you know, and it's very isolated, but recently, over a few days now, I've been followed by, you know, Mercedes Benz with two unknown guys in it that have followed me basically at the same time every day whilst I'm walking up this lonely path that leads back here. So it takes me about 30 minutes to reach where I, you know, if on foot, where I'm going. And this car has followed me. And I live in a small sort of farming village. So no one in the village knows who this car belongs to. And so for a few days now, it's been following behind me. And when I look back at it, it stops.
Oh my
And when
gosh.
I walk, it moves behind me. Now, you know, when I approached it, the car just pulls away. But it was doing this for a few times now, exactly the same time every day. It comes behind me, slowly behind me. And then it stops, it moves, it stops, it moves, and then it goes back. And it reverses back onto the main road and it's off. So, and I've asked a few people, you know, do you know who this car belongs to? And no one knows who it belongs to, you know. So, and it's not the type of car that we have in the village. You know, a lot of the cars are like SUVs, you know, big cars for the countryside and those type of roads. So, but what I was going to say is so I'm still having some experiences with, you know, the alien type of experiences. But a lot of the theme for me now seems to be more centered around the military side of things, you know. And even, you know, secret societies are popping up now as well in the you know, to be part of it. So I made some notes anyway. It's a little bit easier for me.
Sure.
Because I do have like you know, PTSD, complex PTSD, and you know, sometimes that raises its ugly head.
Yes, and get your brain fog,
Yeah,
scattered, right? Jean Hudson, I just want you to know, she said, "Hi, Michael, thanks for sharing protection." And she's praying protection for you. Be careful, truth tellers are in
Lovely.
serious
Thank
danger.
you for that. Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate
That was a
that.
great statement. Yes, yes. All right. So whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and if you don't, that's fine too.
So
you're very brave.
I wrote down throughout my life, there's been a constant stream of experiences that indicated a military presence running through my life. When writing my book, I was able to see a number of my experiences involving abduction by the Greys. But, you know, in my first book, I did allude to the fact that some of the experiences in my book may have been more to do with my lab abductions by the military rather than the Greys, because of the theme that was involved in the abduction. You know, for instance, one part of the book describes being placed upon a black stretcher, you know, by three Greys. Now, you know, we know the Greys don't need to use anything like this, but the military would use something like this. You know, so, you know, we know that the military use screen memories, and we also know that the military do pretend to be the Greys so that the Greys get the blame. Although the Greys are partly responsible for a lot of the abductions that take place, especially with children on the abduction programs, we also know that the military fake these abductions by pretending to be the Greys. But I do feel there have been quite a few in my book that have been, you know, military based rather than, you know, to do with the Greys. I mean, in my second book, I will sort of explain that more. And, you know, at times of stress, when I've experienced times of stress and also through night terrors, because I do have a lot of night terrors, and I think many people in the SSP community, super soldier community, they have these experiences of night terrors because it goes back, you know, to the time when we were children, and what we experienced as children within these projects. You know, the whole of these experiences are we're blank slated, really. Our memories have been hidden from us. And so when I've had these night terrors, sometimes I was able to have a short glimpse into, the classified military projects that I've been involved with over the decades, because these particular projects started when you're a child. Most of them for us, they started, sometimes when we're a babe, they can start when you're a baby, including whilst you're in the womb. But I was brought into what is known as the Monarch Project when I was 4 years old, and this is a project that involves you to disassociate, so, I would have, you would be placed into these projects. And when you're in these projects as a child, you're tortured, you're beaten. And I won't tell you what the other ones are, but I think you can guess. But basically, I underwent all of that, by adults who are in the military, and their goal is to basically to split apart your brain, basically. So they want you to disassociate through the pain, to create alters, which is basically their personalities split from the core. So the core is like the mainframe of a computer. So from this particular core, they normally split away 15 types of alters, which are, they're different types of personalities. They have their own personality, but they're still part of me. And these personalities are then traumatized some more, but they're also programmed, and they're programmed to carry out tasks for the military. So the consciousness that I have now would be described as the front altar that takes the body. So I'm in the body, and my personality now would be described as the altar that is mostly in the front of the body. So a lot of people don't understand, outside of our communities, that the mind can actually have more than one consciousness. So when it's split, when a child's mind is split and shattered like glass, these tiny fragments, these pieces that have cut from the core, almost like a mirror, they're basically taken using quantum computers that are hidden below in deep military, bases. Because as civilians, we don't have these type of computers. They don't exist in civilian society. But these are highly advanced computers, and they've been around since the 1940s. So you can imagine what type of technology we have now. So they take these personalities and they basically program them. And these personalities are placed in what is known as a system within the body or within the mind. So it's like an environment where these type of personalities exist or coexist. Sometimes they don't even know of that each of the other exists, but are highly advanced systems, and they're created by handlers and programmers, almost like they're programming a computer, and many of us within these projects have undergone this type of trauma. And it's also that we are deeply programmed in order so we don't remember. A lot of the time when these alters, if they do come out and they take the front of the body, so my consciousness would be removed. It would move back kind of into the foreground. And so another personality, which is different from mine, but it is part of me though, but it's still different. I mean, sometimes these personalities don't know that they come from, this person. So sometimes, people have described it when they have seen me change, my personality suddenly changed, my eye color might change. And so, at one time I didn't realize that I was doing that, but sometimes even when I speak, I sometimes don't speak singularly. I don't speak as, sometimes people have said I often say we or they or them. So, and when they ask me, now when they ask me, I just say, I should say the others, But so
Wow.
these are the type of things what they do. So they break us in a way to rebuild us, but they rebuild us in an image that they want us to have. You know, a lot of people, I'd say, carrying out certain, shootings and bombings in cities around the world. These could possibly be altars as well, because you often see some of these personalities that are carrying out these crimes, often they have a personality change almost overnight. So their loved ones have seen them as being, of a certain personality, a certain character, and never been in trouble. And so now, you've got this person carrying out these horrendous acts. But then, when it's finished, that personality can move back, and the front altar can take the body again, and they won't have no memory of that. They will be mystified whilst they're being handcuffed and bundled into the back of a police car, and then suddenly appearing in court for something. They just won't have no memory of it, because the programming that we have is so deep, and it's caused by trauma. It's caused by all these, nasty, horrific things done by these adults, So this is, but this subject of altars and that is a huge subject. It's very complex, and it's designed that way. But that, that would take up a whole program.
Yes, so, it's not funny. I'm not, it's
no, yeah. Of course not. No.
And I have a question. I have a question, Michael. So, did your parents did they go along? How did they frame this? Take my 4-year-old child. How was that?
Well, you know what?
No. What?
I mean, in my book, I talk about my parents, but I've learned recently, and I have, even when I wrote book 1, I did have some suspicions that, with my parents, I was actually in a way adopted. So my father, dad, was actually my uncle. And it was, but there's a little bit of a twist in regards to who my parents are. My mum was actually had specific abilities, but she's not the mum that is in my book. So I've discovered now, that I had another mother that I had no contact with. But when she was pregnant, and when she had the baby, me, was removed from her. She was placed into a psychiatric unit, which was a military unit, where she was kept until she died. So, and my dad, I've recently discovered is somewhere else. Should we placed somewhere else? I don't really want to mention where he is.
No, that's fine.
He's not actually in a prison. He's somewhere else. Let's just say it's a military location. But there is a more of a deeper twist to who my father is. This particular person who is my father, biological parent, he was actually used as a in some way. I do have the details, but I don't really want to share them here at the moment.
That's fine. Absolutely, that's fine. So you were essentially created for this, and whether by choice or force, is that?
It has been. It's come to my attention from various sources that that was the case, but also that I was sold into the project. So and that's not an unusual thing. It is, and it's quite horrendous. But again, running through the theme of the people that have been on these projects, they are literally sold into these projects, whether or not they're with their own biological families. The families normally do have, they have something to do with this. So it's not like someone's taken them, and they do know. I think they do know, and I've spoken to a lot of people that have had parents that have been involved, especially ones whose parents are being paedophiles. You know, so they're often given the choice by the government. You know, for instance, the American government, the CIA, often approach these type of parents for these particular projects, and they give them a choice. You go to prison, you take some money, and you give us your child, because they take those children because these children have already been, their minds have already been broken through the trauma. So then they take these children because these type of children are then the type of children that they look for these projects. You know, there's different types of children they look for. These are one category that have already been abused by their own family members. So this is one type, you know, and unfortunately, you know, it's our own governments that are involved in these projects. You know, they're never going to come out with disclosure and say, you know what, actually, you know, yeah, you know, we've been doing this and we've been doing that, because their governments would be finished. They'll all be going to prison.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, they've got a lot to lose, and they're not going to give these projects up that easy. And they're not. It's just not going to happen. You know, we'd like them to. We'd like them all to go to prison. I mean, I've got other thoughts, and I'm pretty sure the children that were abused have as well, and what to do with them. But at the moment, they're protected. So in 2024, I become the friend of the SSP veteran, Olivia James. She's also an author of 2 books. Am I allowed to mention the books here? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So Olivia's first book is called Grey Mouse, Sex, Space and Mind Control. She's recently published and released her second book, which is also called Grey Mouse. It's called Purgatory. So we become friends, and, you know, she'd helped a lot of people, and I become aware of the work that she'd been doing, and also she works a lot with Misha Johnston, and, you know, she was doing good work, and I asked her if she would be able to help me, maybe to assist me in uncovering some of these memories, you know, and without me first of all having regression. So she agreed to do this. So we did some work together, and which then was a lot of information come out. I discovered a lot of things which I thought at first, you know, was quite unusual even for me. So I was going to say, this is the way Olivia often describes herself. So with regards to ability, so she describes her abilities as hosting. So she often says that people confuse this with channeling, and she said it's not channeling. So she also uses bilocation and trance mediumship, and as well as remote viewing. But as she will tell you, the remote viewing is something new that she's doing. And you know, sometimes some of what she has to do in regards to get this information, sometimes she has to move consciousness into another person. You know, some people have, you know, spoken about this as being, you know, morally wrong. I disagree, because these people, folks, these people that have this information, they're not good people. They're working on military bases, you know, and they have our information, the information they hold on us on these computers, and the files that they have on us are all to do with the abuse of us as children. You know, they don't think there's anything wrong with that. These are the type of people running our countries. They have no
Disgusting, isn't
they
it?
have no moral scope of any, you know, anything. You know, they're not like the what I would call the classical military. You know, the men and women that are, you know, in my eyes, you know, they're, you know, these people, courage. You know, they got morals. You know, not these type of people. This is a different type of military coexisting within their own governments and intelligence agencies around the world. Even in the United Kingdom, we have MI6. You know, and these are all part of these projects, which involve children. You know, but obviously the children then grow, like myself, into an adult. But throughout our lives as children, and teenagers, we are used on these projects. Sometimes we just don't know we are, until at some point in our adult life, something breaks, something gives way. And, I think when we come to a certain age, I think parts of ourselves begin to break away from this programming. We begin to have little bits of information coming through, and then we thinking to ourselves, what the hell is this about? So I think when we then start to explore it more, we come into contact with others that have had similar experiences. And some of these people could be like, in other countries that you've never met before, but they share the same experiences with you, and you often think at times, you're the only person having these experiences, when in actual fact, I believe that we are seeing, people that are on these projects in their millions. They just don't, a lot of them just don't know. Although we got social media and we share this information now.
Michael, pardon my interruption. There was a question from a viewer, from Jean. How much of the population do you think have been abused, that are involved in this sort of?
As I said, I think it's running in the millions, but then you got to count the people that have already passed, passed in spirit. These people that maybe didn't have any memories, because what about going back into, this has been going on a long time. So the people then that didn't have social media, wasn't able to share, were in isolated areas, were in certain communities, like religious communities, just didn't know. They've gone on now, passed over, without having this knowledge. They probably have it now because they still exist, but in a different place than the physical. But I would say it runs into millions. And as I've been told recently, the projects have begun again, certainly in the UK, in regards to projects similar to MK Ultra. So they're out there again looking. So it's a lot, I think. And I think, if nothing's done about this, it's going to continue.
Yes.
It's going to spread. These people think, that they, they're hiding themselves away, and they believe that they are protected. And to some degree they are, but we have to stand up and be counted. Thank you, Sandra. We have to be we have to stand up. We have to be counted. Now, with this particular show tonight, I've been threatened and told not to speak on this show. I've been threatened 2 nights ago. I was threatened that they would kill me, that they would take my life.
Oh, Michael.
And my response to that was, well, you know where I am, so come and meet me tomorrow and carry out that act. But I know you won't, but they carry out these threats, to scare you. That's not to say, however, that they won't carry them out. But what do they want me to do? Do I need to go into hiding? No, I'm not going to do that. So the best thing I can do is to annoy them and just speak about what my experiences are, and to tell people, look, this is happening, this is real. And these people are in the background doing what they do, but I'm not going to be a person that's going to go down, in fear. I'm going to be a person that's going to be speaking out and telling people about what's happening.
It's very brave. And they've essentially taken, a large part of your life anyway, right?
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
I mean, but it's very brave. Sandra is asking, Michael, do you know what they use, your different altars?
Yeah, the altars that are used, obviously they're used in different projects. I mean, I'll get to that in a moment. But thanks for the question, Sandra.
Yes.
So it was, from what Olivia discovered, it was made clear that I had been identified at a very young age by an organization which is known as Monarch Solutions. Now, for a better word, they are finders. They look for children with specific characteristics and unique abilities. Often the children as well, to go onto these projects, they have very high IQs. some people often say to me, oh, to go onto these projects, you need to be weak. I can assure you, none of the children that are on these projects are weak, because you have to have a certain metal in order to, survive what they're doing to you,
Yes.
because it's so, I'm not going to even tell you what they do, but it is so horrific. It's, it's beyond the imaginations of literally what people consider to be in some ways normal. And you're programmed to endure these type of abuses. I mean, I'll get to one of my altars in a moment. And one of the things is as well, in the systems and in your mind, in your consciousness, you can actually house within you like hundreds of these type of personalities in one place at one time. They occupy the same space within you, within these systems. I think, as I go forward and talk about things, I will be speaking a lot more about these type of systems, how they're designed, who designs them, and what the altars are, and and the many other types of creatures that you find in these type of places that are there basically to keep them in line, especially if they start to become aware that they are actually in it's almost like a simulated reality, like an holographic reality that's been created by, like CIA type programmers. These people are very, very smart, but I would describe them in one word as a monster, because that's what they are. And they could be normal people that have normal families that no one knows what they do. I mean, yet they go out to, seemingly an ordinary job, but they're actually working for these agencies and carrying out these horrific acts. It just shows you that they are, in some ways, they're narcissists. But this particular organization, and for me, it was the first time I've heard the name when Olivia went into this information. But I do know the FBI. They do have a team of people who they call the finders. They're similar to these. They look for children, and that's what they're looking for, just children. And they look in various places to find these children. So Monarch Solutions, they're employed by various intelligence agencies, secret societies, as well as powerful organizations who hide behind national security. You often find this when anyone is getting too close, they always say it's national security. It's we can't tell you nothing. But the bottom line is, it's actually not national security. It's actually criminal activities, illegal activities against the public, the British and the American public, in the same way that that how money here and the tax dollars are going on to these secret budgets, black budgets, and they're spending your money, folks, on these projects that you have no say in. And if you did have a say in, I'm quite sure you would be against them, because what they do is it's nothing short of a lot of the time genocide in some countries. It's nothing good. I mean, really, the money should be going into the community and doing good. But often it's the case, with these particular narcissists and monsters, it's all to do with selfishness, greed, and basically, bringing down society. But I'm here basically to tell them, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not. And they can do what they want to me, like you said, Barb. They've done enough to me as a child, so bring it on. So what they do is they search for babies in the hospitals as well, if they haven't already got somebody in there. I mean, in the United Kingdom, we got the NHS, the National Health Service. The National Health Service was created just after the Second World War in 1946. Now, what we see today is it's a medical facility. It looks after people, but in its beginnings, its humble beginnings, it wasn't for that. It was created to track down specific bloodlines. That's what it was doing. And so in every hospital, within every maternity ward, they had somebody in there that would identify specific babies. They would do this using their DNA and through various other sources with technology that they had at the time, that they still have now, that doesn't officially exist, but technologies that they use on a day-to-day basis against us, the public, for their own nefarious purposes, and they get away with it because, like, for instance, in regards to the targeted individual communities, when they're having these, these technologies used against them, I mean, if they went to a court of law, they would have to prove that this technology exists. And we know that it exists, and there are various papers about it and research, but it still doesn't really exist. It's not officially existing. It's, it's more speculative that it exists. We can have various experts within the fields claim that it exists, but again, there's no proof. So,
they're not going to admit it, obviously.
No. And you have technologies like this as well that can control a person. They can control your thought patterns. So they can make you, as an example, they can make you pick up an hammer and bang it across your hand. You have no control over that. There's no control over it. They can control your thoughts. And with this technology, they can do this. We know they can do this. I've seen it happen myself, but again, it's like going to a court. Then you've got to prove that somebody's influenced you to do this. So the technology doesn't officially exist. And technically speaking, from a medical point of view, it looks like that the person themselves have decided to hit their hand with an hammer. So there's no proof that there is some type of technology that is influencing your behavior. And until we can then break that and then bring out, that this technology is hidden from the public, but it exists. And our military and our intelligence agencies, secret organizations, secret societies are using this technology against us. There's no way otherwise of bringing it to a court. At best, the person that does bring it to a court will be put into a psychiatric unit.
Yes,
to be assessed. To be assessed for mental health problems, and at best drugged up to the eyeballs. So it's difficult, really. The only thing we can do is to support each other. So they're looking for, certain abilities, really. I mean, my medical records showed I had a different type of DNA. And do you remember that last time on the first show, Chris asked this, didn't he? He asked me,
yes,
did I think I had a mix of different types of DNA? I wasn't really sure. Remember, I said I wasn't sure. I said possibly, but I just don't know. But
yes.
But now I do know. So my medical records that were discovered on various military bases showed that my DNA was slightly different. It also showed that I had the ability, using the pressure of my heart, to open up portals. So they said it was recorded. Olivia discovered it was recorded that it stated that my heart had a specific function that when I was traumatized, it could open up these particular like vortexes or portals. And Olivia said she'd never heard of that before, but she had heard of other people being able to open up portals in different ways, but this way was slightly different. So they refer to as portal people. And the military are according to military files, these type of people are highly sought after for these type of projects. And so but what I was going to say, it's interesting because on my medical records that I've discovered here, from the NHS, it shows that I actually have a hole in my heart from from X-rays from a child.
Goodness.
So I'm not sure if that's linked in any way. I don't know. But I remember one of Olivia's guides as well, when she was out there, one of her guides stepped forward as well, and he was speaking with her, and he was actually said that I had been identified early on as being having specific type of DNA that they were very interested in. I mean, this goes back, to specific bloodlines through, the centuries. And again, we have this theme, I think, with a lot of people. We have these blood ties that run in with certain, certain bloodlines.
Yes.
And you find this. I think you'll find this, Barb, when you're talking to people, don't you?
Yes,
That
absolutely.
there's a theme running through,
Yeah, a commonality. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a question. Let me just put it up here on the screen. Michael, I have heard over and over that aliens take women to breed them and then come back for the baby, and then the women are told they miscarried. Have you heard or do you know about this? And I'm wondering, is this something that would be related to your situation?
I think you're right, Jean. I think that does happen. It happens a lot. They do take often, women, they become pregnant and then, they lose the babies. There's a miscarriage or the baby suddenly vanishes. But then they're normally, the abductee is normally taken aboard the ship to see actually their offspring. Often they're told, or they're told rather than asked to interact with the baby, So yeah, I do believe it happens. I believe it happens a lot, and I think it will continue to happen. Well, we also know that they do have specific types of women that do go on board the ships purely to be with these particular type of babies, which are basically a mix between, for instance, the greys with a human, sorry, baby.
I've talked to a woman that actually exactly what you're saying. Are you okay? Are you okay, Michael?
Yeah. It's just, just pangs there.
Yeah, I actually did talk to a woman that she said exactly what you're talking about, is that she was taken onto a ship and was showed several children that were hers, and then she they made it out to, they were trying to make her think that it was a dream, but she said, I know that this is real.
Sure.
One of the viewers said, do the children identified age out, do you think?
Can you explain what you mean by that? Age out?
Yeah, I think, let us know what you mean. I'm thinking I'm not sure. Cause obviously you would, get to a certain age and then they wouldn't be maybe, but we'll see Lorna. So if you could just let us know what exactly. All right, let's see.
Thank you for the question, Lorna.
Yes.
And everyone else as well.
Where Nancy's just saying, Michael, you're so brave. Thank you for sharing this information. You're doing a magnificent job presenting this knowledge. This is definitely something that needs to be.
Thank you, Nancy.
People think there's a lot of there's a lot of discussion about it, but it's not something that is out in, they don't want this to get out, but it needs to get out. So thank you again. All right. So, so just go on with whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, okay. Lorna is saying, as far as what she meant by the age out question, when they grow up, do they have a choice to leave, or what happens at that point?
No, they don't. No, they often don't leave these ships.
Okay.
You often find them, from what I've discovered as well, a lot of these type of children that are fused genetically between one or the other, one of the interesting things is they remain on board the ships a lot of the time, and sometimes they're even told that humans are not a good race. They're lied to about a lot of stuff as well, and they just don't know. So when other ET races interact with these type of hybrids, they often describe them as being ill-treated by these other races. And you often find them below, deep underground military bases or, DUMBs involved in some jobs. So it's, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you. yeah, it's an horrible situation, really. I mean, sometimes it's so, you know, it's almost like you're living in the twilight zone. It's sometimes even for people like ourselves, you know, we stand back and we think, God, you know, this is actually happening. It's real, and you know, and it's like it's an awful situation to be born into a world only to, you know, be born then or sold into these projects, and you've got no choice in the matter. You know, you just haven't no choice. And you know, I mean, I often feel suicidal. You know, I mean, I often feel like just taking my life because, but you know, one of the things that I've discovered through these projects as well, and it runs again, every single person, excuse me, that was on the secret space program and super soldier projects, they have what we call delta programming. Delta programming is, and there's different names for this as well, but I will use delta. Delta programming is suicide programming. So what that means is when you begin to speak out, this type of programming kicks in. So what that does is it has two factors. One, it can create you to feel like you want to self-harm. The other one is that you want to kill yourself. You know, sometimes when you're talking out and also you're doing the research, you do feel this feeling, it comes up. And when you speak to other people, veterans of these projects, because they are veterans of these projects, you know, they've been in them since they were children, that gives them the right to be called a veteran of these projects. And they have this as well. They feel like taking their lives, you know, and the programming for this is so deep, it's so heavy, it does come out of you. And I mean, I have had many times when I feel like, you know what, if I had a gun, I'd blow my brains out, you know, but I'm sure I'm not going to do that. I mean, I resist.
Good. I'm so sorry. Yes, please.
No,
Yes.
you do. You resist it. It's a program. But when you become aware of the program, I think it becomes a little easier to resist. You know, it's almost like you're pushing your wheel over what they're trying to achieve. And, you know, you know, because it's so important and that, and you're pushing against it. You're going to say, well, you know, it's difficult because the programming's really deep, and they got you on a hook. I mean, it's once you're on these projects and programs, it's difficult to get off of them. And one of the things that they tell you as well, just to make you feel better, your handlers of these projects, they tell you that you voluntarily you volunteered and you signed the contracts that you have because, you know, because you're doing good. But what you discover is actually one of the interesting things is, no, you know, you've not signed willingly a contract like this, you know, to be subjected to these type of abuses. But what you do find is that you have your alters sign them. So your alters, your split personalities, each one of them is an individual, but each one of them has actually got a contract they've signed, and it allows them, which then, you know, forfeits their right of actually saying no. I mean, they can't say no anyway, because again, these alters inside me in this system, they are subjected to trauma. And another thing which is interesting as well is that they have the technology to go back into your past lives to bring forward one of your personalities from that life.
Oh my gosh.
And for instance, as an example, say you had a Knights Templar, say they were burnt at the stake, you know, for and they will bring back that personality from that past. They have the technology to do this. This is nothing new. Sorry, this is nothing new. Sorry, I'm getting a knife in my neck, but it's so it's
Michael, is this paranormal, do you think, or is this like this is a tool that they?
No, it's technology.
Okay, because Jean was saying, are you saying that they program you to harm yourself because you know too much and you're sharing? So this is, I guess, the answer to that is yes, because it's evidenced by what you're.
There is. They program, all of us are programmed as children, and we have various programs that are within our, you know, within our consciousness, within our system, within these altars, and they're programmed also. They're programmed also to protect the system. They're also programmed to make, like for instance, if I become aware of something, the altars, although mostly they protect, the altars are protective towards you. But you know, because they're you, and you know, in some ways they're taking on your trauma. This is the disassociate, you know.
Okay.
So when you disassociate through pain, this altar is created. So the altar is taking on your pain. So the altar within the system is still experiencing that pain, you know. And what you find is as well is so that they, another thing you experience sometimes, then your night terrors you think are your own, they're not your own. There's sometimes these personalities that are actually experiencing this type of terror themselves, but you're reliving it as the front altar that is old in this body. I mean, it's a very interesting subject. It's a very complicated subject, but it's one that needs to be addressed within these projects, because everything can be, you know, some people can describe these projects as being paranormal, and in some ways they are. There's a lot of high magic used in this, and ritualistic abuse, you know, satanic stuff, you know, themes and other types of entities, but not all of it is paranormal. What they like you to believe is that what they use is paranormal. It's not, it's technology. They're using very, very highly advanced technology that is able to manipulate the frequencies in your head. You know, and as they say, you know, the human mind, there's no firewall. It has no protection against it. If they want to come in, often though, when they use this technology, you have implants as well that they sort of piggyback on in order to create a link with satellites and this type of technology, like voice to skull, V2K type technology, you know, to in order to, you know, get inside of you, to control you. I'm not saying it's impossible to break away from it. Nothing's impossible. You know, there is often a way through it, but sometimes with these particular projects and programs, it's difficult because you have to understand how the programming works. A normal therapist in everyday society, if they go to deprogram a person, they're not going to be able to do it. They don't know the codes that are used. The codes are very secretive. And if you don't know the codes, you're not going to do it. In fact, you'll probably do more harm than good. You know, that's not to say you shouldn't try. I think at best you can probably just try to help the person in some way.
There's a question that and Jean, is asking. So, Michael, we all know that they put ingredients in our foods that are dangerous and harm us. Are they behind that too, in a bid to control population?
I would say, Jean, that it's a good question. I would say that a lot of what we're discovering, all of us now, I believe that a lot of these organizations are involved in these, unfortunately. You know, again, it's to do with controlling the populations. It's also to do with killing the populations in order to control the rest of us, you know, to get us under control. That's one of the reasons they want to take your guns away. You know, they want to do that because if they do that, they're going to have an easier time in order to take control of your property.
Of course.
And you know, and you know, I mean, people say it's a conspiracy theory. Well, is it really?
No,
you
yeah,
know,
that's.
I mean, of course there is. You know, of course there's lots of crimes in the world, and there's lots of shootings and things like that. But you know, it's I do believe that you know, these organizations would prefer it you didn't have any protection whatsoever. You would then be easily able to be rounded up, and we know what happened last time with that.
Right.
You know,
right.
these people were taken, and they, you know, we know what happened there. And we don't want really history to repeat itself.
Yes. And it seems like there is a concerted effort right now and a concentrated effort to create chaos and you know, just destroy the average person's life, right to the point that we're all distracted by this.
Well, in the United Kingdom now, we've got a lot of troubles here with fighting on the streets, you know, for various, you know, far-right organizations, and lots of police are being injured, attacked, you know, even paramedics, you know, you know, and this is running throughout a lot of our cities, you know, but what they're doing there is as well, you know, they're creating fear in society. They're creating fear in the normal public, in the general public. They're creating anxiety. People don't want to go out. You know,
Right.
people are frightened. So this is, again, this energy they're creating in us, they're piggy banking, they're using it and answering that, you know. They're creating something from this. They're taking this energy from fear. But, you know, it's only recently as well that I was told by these particular people that have some sort of control over me as handlers, that they are creating this trouble now in the world. They're creating it in the cities here.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to create it in other countries. You're going to see this coming up now in other countries. Look, you're going to see it.
Yeah, we've seen that. We've definitely seen that in the United States.
There's some in outside of the United States, not UK even. It's going to be in other countries that's coming up now. They're creating this. They've told me. They're creating this because they're bringing forward their agenda. The New World Order, folks, is alive and well and kicking, and they told me that they're bringing this forward now. So you're going to see a lot of trouble coming as well in Israel. There's a lot of activity going to be happening there that's not previously happened yet. So this is one of the major control centers that they want to take control of. You know,
there's many children missing still, Israeli children missing from that initial attack. And I was thinking that, you know, as you were telling us in the very beginning of the interview, that these children,
I mean, in places like, for example, I think one of the things what they're doing is in for instance, Ukraine, for instance, you know, when you've got, as an example, when you've got all this bombardment, you know, of the buildings, and you've got people that are homeless, and then they're looking for refuge, they're looking for places to go. What they're doing is, and what you'll find is that they're taking these children and they're trafficking these children to be used onto these projects. We know that they're doing this. They're even using the waterways. In the waterways in places in Ukraine, there are portals. These portals are used to traffic adults and children so they're not easily able to be detected. Jesus. And sorry. And you know what you see with as well, people that go missing in national forests in the United States and in, you know, Canada. And they often say, you know, their children are there and then they're gone. But often you find when they look for these adults or children, they often find signs that they've disappeared near water. You know, and there's no footprints of them. I mean, they go somewhere. So we know that there are waterways within various places around the United States, and we know that there are portals in these places, and we know that these adults and children are brought through these portals, and when they go through these portals, they also go into the deep military bases. And again, these are located all over the United States. You know, as you know. And this is where they go to. What they do with them when they get there is another thing, but we know where the children will go. And often the adults that go into these military bases, I can tell you now, they will never ever be seen again. They just won't. We know that some of them are taken off world. And we know that a lot of them are used within these bases, sometimes by the military, sometimes by, you know, the Greys or other races. But what they do with them is not good. And you know, and again, all of these things are being highlighted. We just need to gain a lot more control over what these organizations do. I'll tell you a little later what I'm planning on doing with a lot of these CIA, as an example, handlers, and which they're not going to be happy with, which will identify them publicly. But if going back to this, I mean, so about the portals, I've touched upon. Let me see. So they said through their experimentations over time that they discovered that people that have, you know, abilities to open portals, they said that they discovered that, you know, although a portal, for example, me, the pressure in my heart opens up portals. So they said it can be opened up through, you know, a nice experience. So sometimes they can be opened up in this way. But what they discovered was it's actually pain, suffering, and trauma that opens up the portals better for whatever reason. So, you know, this is what they did to me. They subjected me to torture and to beatings in order for me to open up my heart in a certain way, almost like a key unlocking the door for them. You know, and you know, from my book, when I spoke about, you know, the greys coming into my bedroom, sometimes coming through the walls, it was actually me that had created the openings for these particular beings to enter. But I didn't know. I didn't know. You know, I didn't know.
Oh, wow. This is so helpful that you spoke, that you know, that you were able to get in touch with, and this woman that just has revealed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, she's really good. I mean, I've done other work with her as well, and there's a lot more information, but a lot more than I can, you know, talk about here. But there's a lot more to do with what I will talk about here, which is carried on, which is actually even more interesting. So I've done that. So it showed that on both my medical and military records, and one of my military records is actually housed on a terminal or a few terminals at the NSA, the National Security Agency site on Pine Gap in Australia. So we know that this is a major programming center, and it was for MK Ultra. You know, or that a lot of people were actually programmed at this site. It's a top secret military facility, but you know, we were able to access this particular base, but we were actually discovered whilst we were there by the security teams. So Olivia has the ability to move into these certain places, but so do they. They have what she does, they do. So that we have various teams. So we have the good teams, we have the bad teams. And as much as we can get information from them, they can gain information from us. So it goes both ways. And this is what happened. I mean, this is another story, but just to give you a brief on that. So what they discovered on my military and medical records is I possessed a rare ability to withstand increased levels of pain, which they described as being measurable. They said that I had a high threshold for pain. Now, on one hand, that they found this highly unusual. They said it was very rare. They said, unlike the other children who they were referring to as monarch children, and also children that had been on the SSP and super soldiers, they said I had a different ability to withstand pain. So I wasn't, when they were abusing me, let's just say that word, they said I wasn't at first disassociating. So I wasn't, first of all, breaking away in the way that normal, what would be considered normal for a person being abused or traumatized in this way. So they said I was resisting their attempts. So of course, at some point they did, but they used a different method to break me. It wasn't coming through the same way. They broke me in a different way. But they, you know, when they were beating me as a child, you know, we also received a lot of electric shock treatments. You know, they used to use the cattle prods to shock you. You know, because when they shocked you as well, this is another way. When they shock you, when you have, you know, when you've carried out, say, a mission for them or an objective, one way is to stop you from remembering is they use cattle prods to electrocute you, and inside your head you see a light, which is like a flash of white light, bright light. It illuminates the inside of your head. And when that happens, you forget. And so when you forget, then they reprogram you again. And so then that altar then goes back in and you take the front body, which is me taking the front. And the front is also very heavily programmed to carry out and to place inside of you scripts that are, you know, almost like these fairy tales about how you live your life and what your life's about, when in actual fact it's nothing like that at all. So you know, when people start to uncover the memories, you know, normally they can go into shock or you know, in denial even, because it's so, you know, it's so far removed from your everyday life. It's almost like you're living in a storybook that they've created for you, you know, with all these different characters.
Oh my
but unfortunately it's real, you know. And the you know, the DID, you know, the dissociative identity disorder that we have, this was created by the military who run these projects. This was never put there by our doctors. The doctors and who put this title. So these people that have multiple, it used to be personality disorder, now it's dissociative identity disorder. This was put in by the very people that created these projects. Like in the United Kingdom, we have the Tavistock Institute in London. This is a major organization that's been involved since World War II in the programming of children for these projects, and it continues to carry out these projects for these various intelligence agencies, including the elite and or the Illuminati. They carry out, they work all together to carry out the same agendas, to create the same projects, programs, and sub programs in order, you know, to bring about the New World Order. You know, New World Order is not a conspiracy. I think people can generally see, even people outside of our communities, what's happening in the world is not normal. You know, it's not normal. Anyone who says it's normal, come on.
Yes.
You know.
Right.
You know, it's not. But so what else did I have? So Olivia's guide, she was saying that he was telling her as well that he described me as being, he said, this gentleman in front of you is electrical. His body has a high charge of electrical activity around it, which is not normal normally. And I remember, I was thinking to myself, I remember decades ago when I was involved in a job, which was basically, I was a covert operative doing surveillance work. I worked for a military contractor. The military contractor, I learned later on that I worked for, actually employed what we call the cameo dudes at Area 51, who protect the outer perimeters of the base. So I actually worked for the contractor that contracts them to that base. And I worked for them as a covert operative. And I was working at the time alongside the British police, targeting violent criminals. But I remember when I was with them, we had the earpieces, but we had like wireless type earpieces that went straight in, and you know, they looked like part of your ear really. But and we had the radios underneath, you know, bulletproof and stab-proof vests. But I remember, even though my radio was charged fully, the battery would go down like within minutes. And so it became a joke amongst my team that no one on my team would allow me to use their radios, because every time I used their radios, the batteries would run dead.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember another time, a friend of mine, he had a brand new like BMW SUV, and he was showing me it. And I remember I put my hands on top of the bonnet, and there was no keys in the ignition. And when I put my hands on there, the car started and it crashed in front of a wall.
Oh no, my goodness.
Yeah, and it was a brand new car, and you know, he went absolutely mad at me. But I had no idea I had done that. But when I look at this, it's possible, because what I'm going to talk about in a moment is basically what was created in me as a child. So let me see. I've done that. Okay. So when we were looking also at the records on these computers, this is a statement that was found in one of my military files. It said, and this was written by the people involved in this project that's coming up. What we have accomplished is by far the most challenging endeavor we have understood so far. We have pushed past the time limits of the known reality. He has helped us with this. So what they're referring to is what would be a 10-year-old boy. So,
wow.
So it was discovered from the files. I was 10 years, between the ages of 5 and 10 years old, I was brought in to the first experiments. These were the first experiments for what would become this particular project. Okay. So it was understood from what was read by Olivia that I was the first that created the project. So again, in this particular project, I was beaten, I was tortured to create the correct frequency patterns that were required for this particular experiment. So the experiment we discovered took place at a specific location known as Strobridge. So it's STROWBRIDGE. Now Strobridge, we've been looking at this location. What's interesting is, and I don't know for sure at the moment because I'm speaking to a few people about this, but I was born in London, but now I live in Somerset in the southwest of England, which is the countryside. Now, this particular place, Strobridge, is actually only a few miles away from my location.
Oh.
But as a child, I wasn't, as far as I know, in this location. But what my files state is that between the age of 5 and 10, I was taken into this military project. It was located in this location, Strobridge, and it doesn't exist now. It's been, it's been knocked down. But at the time, what we did discover and what we were told is that it did exist in 1963. So it was set up on an abandoned site consisting of a large, what we see is that where it took place was a large 7-story warehouse type building. It had lots of broken windows. It was also a place where nobody would go. It was also protected though by military personnel that were, out of sight, but obviously visible if there was anyone around, probably just get local police to get rid of them. So underneath it, there had been actually a military scientific lab running underneath it. So what we discovered as well, and what we were told is these particular medical labs actually exist in many locations, hidden in plain sight, but obviously, out of the way. So, and I remember also years ago, somebody speaking to me, just to go off topic a minute, who his dad actually worked at Walt Disney, the theme park in Florida. He worked, and he said underneath the ground is lots of military scientific labs where children go. And his dad worked underneath here. And now I did try it one time to have an interview with him. I wanted to speak to him on camera, and he agreed to do this. But at the very last moment, he said to me, "I can't do it. I won't do it." He said, because my family's still alive and I have a family of my own. And he was literally scared. But he did tell me that underneath the Walt Disney theme park in Florida are military labs, scientific labs with people in white lab coats. And he says there are like trains that go through this underneath it. And his dad spoke about children being taken from place to place, which went into other locations around the country, around the United States, and possibly other nations where these children were taken for whatever reason. So the first experiments that took place at this location with me were deemed to be unsuccessful. So they said on my on the computer, it said that the subject had not released from his body whilst undergoing this type of trauma. So what we're seeing is that I was strapped down on a gurney when I was a child. My ankles and my wrists were bound. I had a specific device placed upon my head. And I don't know what that was, but what I think it was, I believe it could have been something that amplifies brainwaves. Because I had something on that a long time ago, interestingly, by a lady I come into contact with who was a military remote viewer for the Australian government. She actually worked at Pine Gap as a military remote viewer. She took me on as a personal student. And one of the devices she put on my head was a device that was not available to the public, but it was used at Pine Gap and placed on the head, and it actually triangulated a frequency between your right and left brain. It amplified the brain waves in order for you to achieve a better, a better methodology to engage in remote viewing. So, so this is what she did with me. And anyway, but so that's possibly what it could be. It's only speculation on my part. I don't know. But it also showed that with these experiments, my tongue also swelled up.
Oh my goodness.
And it was also noted that at one time when they were carrying out a specific type of technique on me, that I was basically close to death. And they were able to revive me using, there was a solution, a liquid that I used, and we did get the scientific name for it, which was created on the base for these particular experiments. And I do have the I think it's the numbers and the letters for this. I think it was a green liquid they put into me, and I was able to be revived. But on that particular note on my records, it states that I did actually was very, very close to dying because of what they were doing to me. My body wasn't able to handle it at the time. So then they decided to change that method and, do something different, because obviously that wasn't working and they didn't want to actually kill me. I forgot that. So what was shown is when I was on this gurney, I was surrounded by large pieces of machinery, and this type of machinery was actually banging pieces of metal together, smashing them together to create a specific sound and a specific frequency. It was creating a specific sound wave. And they had a name for this, and they referred to it as smashing the plates. This is what they called it. They called it smashing the plates. And what they wanted to do with me, we discovered, is the experiment was designed to break me down and create a shadow in me. And I believe this is from a subatomic level. Now, this is a unique project. This project, it doesn't exist anywhere, and it's and this is what they didn't want me to speak about tonight. It's a highly classified project, and so the project was eventually successful. So what they wanted to achieve in me, they did.
Gosh.
So the project was described as being, the shadow would become the ultimate weapon, because I will explain what the shadow can do. So the shadow was based in the physical. It wasn't based multidimensionally like a lot of them are. It was primarily, the shadow was designed as a military piece of technology. He had a physical locality, so it's actually me. I had a physical locality about me, but my body, which was black, it had no physical features. It was just a black shape, but it had a physicality to it, slightly physicality, but it housed a lot of electricity. Remember, the guide was saying, so it had a lot of electricity surrounding it. But it was designed, for various purposes. One of the purposes was warfare. One of it was to do with travel, intelligence gathering, espionage. It had the ability to communicate telepathically, and it also, one of its main strengths was invisibility. So it was described as I was able to go anywhere at all without being monitored, without being seen. Remote viewers wouldn't be able to pick me up. Sophisticated advanced technology on bases like Area 51 wouldn't be able to detect me. If I wanted to enter their base, they wouldn't see me.
Wow.
And I did enter Area 51. I was asked by the US government, the Department of Defense, US Navy intelligence, to go there to carry out a task for them. My record states didn't want to do that. And I did go to the base. I did spy for them at this base. Because I think what you find is though we have the secret space program, I think we have various types of secret space programs. Although they're working together, I think also they're working against each other. One doesn't want to know what the other's doing, They want to know what each other's doing, but they're keeping things secret. So with these particular projects, we know that that they, So I did go into this base. I wasn't detected by anyone. None of their technology, which is also alien based, and none of their personnel. And so what this particular project involved was this. I mean, they do have others now, so there are other shadow type beings, that are able to do this. There is a difference between me and the others, and I'll go into that in a while. But what I was able to do is I would be able to go into literally any place, any structure, any room, and I'd become part of that room. You wouldn't see me. You just wouldn't see me.
Wow.
And you wouldn't be detected. And so I would be able to listen in on anyone. I'd be able to watch anyone. So, and as I said, there are other, but a lot of the time they were using it. The projects were used a lot of the time to do with their own type of projects, to do with other organizations that were, for instance, could be going against them. So you would go in and carry out these type of tasks for them. But again, you it's not something you wanted to do, and this went on for quite a while, and I'm finding out a lot more what the projects involved, So, at times when I did show myself to people, I allowed my physicality to change in some way. People often describe me, from my military records, they describe me as being a ghost. I look like a ghost, but I wasn't. I was actually, and what the project also notes is that when I was doing this, I was actually a physical person in a physical body, in a physical earth. So it was all real. It wasn't, it wasn't astral, and it wasn't. It wasn't an altar taking my place. So it was me doing it. So
Grizzly saying hello, Michael. He's
hi,
checking it.
hello.
Fantastic show.
So
you got to go back and watch it all. Whoa.
So one of the things that I can't understand at the moment is I'm not sure whether or not they detected something in my DNA that allowed me to do this. And then they wanted to sort of enhance this, to create something from this, from a blank canvas in a way. Or was it something they themselves found from my DNA that they were then able to turn through experimentation into a project. I mean, the project name is called Project Stranger. That's the name of this project.
Oh my God.
Project Stranger. And in the project, I'm known as the Shadow, but my operational name is Nemesis. That's my operational name for the project. So and that's what they referred to me when they wanted me. They referred to me as Nemesis, and that was my code within the project. I mean, they're not going to be happy me telling you that, but that's what it was.
So brave, Michael. Oh
so they describe me as, you know, their project as no one can fight a shadow because you can't see it. You can't even. I mean, it is. I think it is. It was created at a subatomic level, but you know, for them, the project took a different turn for them. An unexpected turn within the project happened. So what I did was I took the project in a different direction. So I went against their orders. So when they were controlling me, they have control. When they had control of me, I took it in a different direction. So my military record states that I was basically partially removed from the project for disobeying orders. That's what it comes under. So what I did was I was able then, in that physical type body of the shadow, not like this now, but as a shadow, I took it interdimensionally. I removed myself from the physical, and using that form, not this form, I was able to enter the astral realms. I was able to enter the multiverse, and I was able to enter into other areas that none of the military to date has ever accessed using this form. It states this in my records as well. He was able to enter these other areas, locations, timelines that we ourselves, with our technology and know-how, have not been yet able to access. But the thing is, I learned how to master them. And when I mastered them, they couldn't control me. They couldn't find me. They couldn't capture me in these realms. And so they're able to control me here in the physical now. They're able to control me here. If I go out as a shadow being, they can't control me there. They can't capture me. So what they've done was, these projects was officially disbanded in 1985. It was closed. And I was, as they say, I didn't know at the time, but I was told recently by some of the handlers that actually, you know what, you still belong to us. You were only partially dismissed, which means we gave you a little. So, but what I think happened was I gave them a slip in a way. They couldn't find me. But you see, when Olivia went back into these projects, 2 days later, they contacted me and said, you know what, haha, we found you. We found you again. Because their remote viewers discovered us watching and looking at this. So then I was off the radar, but then now they know where I am again. So they've told me recently, you know what, they want me back. So I took the project, I took it as my own. I took Project Stranger, and I took it as my own, and they wanted it back, but they couldn't control me. So I was like, you know, somebody who was basically going to be a problem for them. I mean, in the files, I'm considered a threat. My files stipulate that the subject is a threat against national security. And but you know what that boils down to, in a more simple, you know, in a layman's terms, is that I'm a threat to them, not to national security, but to them and to their projects, because I know about their projects. And, you know, I've been told not to speak about it. I've been told not to speak about this subject because it's a subject that is actually now, you know, I'll go into that in a minute, but it's something they just don't want people to know about. So,
I think that a lot of us do know, not to this extent, and that's what they don't want to get out. You're confirming the horrible existence of what.
I mean, there's lots of projects and there's lots of programs around it. We're covering these themes. This is just one myself that I've uncovered, that I've been involved with. I actually am still involved with it now. But the shadow is considered a top level clearance, and it describes it as not being known by many people within these organizations. It's kept secret. So some of those who were in control of me at the time were an organization called Kruger International, a German branch, highly dangerous military contractor that have their mitts into everything. Basically, they seem to be a lot of the time, this name comes up almost all of the time within their secret space program and the super soldier projects, with people that are on these projects. Kruger International always mentioned, and they were saying also that the shadow was also being used by other intelligence agencies, secret organizations, and secret societies, including the Illuminati, mostly the Illuminati, and what I describe as what they call the Round Table, which is the Bilderbergs are a part of this, and many other types of military organizations. But Olivia was able to identify the main people that created the project, and they refer to themselves as a private military organization. They call themselves the Core, CORE. And they said that the Core is actually being identified as an old group or even a sect. It's very powerful. Almost, it's a secret organization, a secret sect, very powerful, old school, and it controls a lot of information. It controls a lot of these projects. So this was the organization that created me as the shadow in this project. But as I said, there are others, but the others that they can't enter these other levels. They can only act in the physical, whereas I have been able to work within the astral levels and interdimensional and in other areas, including other timelines, through time traveling projects. So they did send me at one time into the past and into the future. I mean, this is we've got time traveling technologies and projects. This is nothing new, and this is something in time the public will become aware of, and I believe in time will be able to use the technology themselves. It'll be it'll be brought into the public domain much later on, where the public will be able to use it. So they refer to themselves as an order, and they call themselves the Order of the Shadow, an elite group of people hidden, as they say, within the shadows. And so, I'll just go over a few other things, what was mentioned.
One of the questions that we had two questions, I believe they may have both been from Little Twisted, but that they would love to get your book. But what you're talking about is new information. Is that not saying that they could, but and then we will definitely, the book. How many books have you written to date?
Today it's my first one. The one I've got now is the first, but the one I'm going to write about.
And I got this through. This through Amazon, so you can get an idea of what he experienced through his lifetime. But now the knowledge that he has now is it's really knocked all of that on its head, kind of. Wow. And they had suggested a second show, which I want to set up with you, and for question and answers, because there's so much information. But please go on, with your notes that you have for today. I want you to get that all.
I mean, as I said, with the work I did with Olivia, and a lot of other information's come to light as well. When after we've Olivia has accessed these locations, there's a lot more that's come up as well that I'll, share with you next time about this particular shadow and what it can do. So what they said is that I still have the ability to access this particular being. So again, it's not a different part of me, it's me. And I have actually seen myself recently in this form.
Wow.
So they some of the handlers who are Kruger International handlers, they are the ones that are in control of the altars and in control in a way of what would have been me then as the shadow. So they said that I have the ability to access this project again myself. They said I have done it. So what's happened is I took this project, I ran with it, and I took away their control basically, and they didn't know what to do. They had no idea what to do. So they were trying to control me. So, and they used, various methods to do this. One of the things that they have done, and this has been noted a few times, and I found it on my records as well, is that they changed my timeline 6 times now in this lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
So they're able to do this, and they've done it with other people within these projects. So one of the reasons it's said is why they did this is because they lost control of me. But what has been happening is that in this lifetime, it's been just 6 times. They've changed my timelines. So things have changed in my lifetime. And what I'm trying to do is uncover what that is. So what I've discovered, why they've done this as well, it's interesting, is that I'm able to shift into this shadow being, and I'm able to do what they taught me to do here in the physical. So it's not I'm able to move as well interdimensionally in this form, but it won't hurt me. I was saying to you, in my first book, a lot of abductions that took place outside of the body. So as a young child, I've always been able to move my consciousness outside of the body. This is what they were trying to do, you see, with disassociation as well. When they said that the first experiments had failed, I wasn't able to move successfully outside of my vessel because the techniques they were using upon me was actually causing me harm. Until they were then able to, I guess, through measurable, that's what they mean by measuring these experiments to see where they're at, to see what worked and what didn't work. They were then able to create, I guess, get it right. So they wouldn't basically be killing me and able to achieve, because a lot of money was going into this, into these projects, and to achieve the correct frequency in order for me to, become this particular shadow being. I mean, I often wonder as well if what we call shadow people is in some way connected.
I was
that,
thinking the same thing, when you were talking about that.
Because there is similarities a little bit between this,
Yes.
and why it is that, it might not be, but it's similar.
Yes.
But what we did discover is that the shadow being and the creation of it is also very much in line. It's synchronized also with what was known as the beast of Montauk. So what Kameron, the guy Kameron, whilst he was in this chair, which had been gifted apparently by the Syrians, which was able to travel through time, or you were able to create using your mind various types of objects or bring objects back even. And when he created this particular beast that then supposedly went on a rampage, killing the scientists there, which then was the result of closing this base down. But obviously it didn't close completely, because we know that nothing the military use is ever wasted. They close it down, they change the project name, but then it reopens normally in the same location under a different name, but then it goes forward. So we know that Montauk still exists under a different name in the same location, under the same base. It still exists. But so this particular creature it has a similar physicality a similar structure as this particular creature. So I'm not sure if they used that in some way to create this. I don't know. So there's a lot of question marks really in regards to it, and this is what I'm trying to uncover, and you know, I'm trying to bridge the gap to between what is, you know, what we can then throw out and what we can then you know, accept as being based on some sort of reality within these projects, to have a better understanding of what it is. I mean, the thing is so what they were concerned about is that I was using this. So and I don't have no memory of this, by the way, at the moment, but what I was doing is with this, I was able to then, I come to some understanding that this particular shadow being from Project Stranger wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just subjected to the laws within this base, where in this lab. So it wasn't like they were doing it and I was going off doing something and then I was coming back. So it was more a case of what they didn't want me to know is that I was able to do it myself. So I learned a way of able to do it. So then I become a threat to them, because I'm basically this particular being who has an awareness of who he is, what he can do. And you know what if I was able to do this now and share it with you? You know, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
So what they discovered, I was able to do this. So in order to control me, that they lost control of me slightly here in the physical. So what they started to do is they started to change my timelines. So by changing my timelines, it made me forget everything.
Wow.
And it states in one of my records from this particular base and at Pine Gap, it states what Olivia discovered. It states also that you know, we were unable to control the subject. The subject is now at large, is a threat to us, and it needs to be handled. And one of the ways that they decided to do this is to do that. So what it looks like, over at least 6 different times, I've been able to in some way regain these memories in small parts, then find my way back to this shadow. So the shadow is somewhere, it's like somewhere in me, but it's not, as I said, it's not an altar. It's something that I'm able to construct around myself. You know, I'm able to, it's like almost another body that comes around me using a very high charge of electricity. And we found out a lot more. Olivia found out a lot more as well, what exactly this electricity can do. And it does do a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And it does it here now in this lifetime, in this physicality, in this body. So they're like saying as well that it's nothing that I do is not, it's not real, it's not unreal, it's not based around the astral, it's based in the physical body now in this lifetime. And they said what also that I'm not aware of is what the abilities I have and what I can actually do here now. So that it seems like what I've been doing is, every time they've changed my timelines, I've got closer and closer and closer to achieving full mastery here of this being in this physicality, and they don't want that, because once they do that, they're basically screwed. You know, I mean, they've lost full control and they have no control then. So what I'm trying to do at the moment, and you know, Olivia said that I should try this. I'm trying to now generate that same type of pattern, smashing the plates, looking for there's a sound, a trigger. They said I need to trigger the sound in order to do this. So I'm trying to now synchronize this same type of sound. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with some musicians to see if they can copy it, the same frequency. They said if I'm able to copy this frequency, I'll be able to now in this lifetime now literally jump into this or recreate this body around me. And do these other things. I mean, we found as well that the shadow has also abilities, that it was used in some cases to kill. It was used in assassination programs it targeted specific people
Oh my
sometimes like mafia type figures in
Mhm.
organized crime
Mhm.
that they wanted rid of. And you
Wow.
know, the shadow was then able to infiltrate these locations without being
Mhm.
seen and basically take out their targets. I mean, I'm looking at the moment in, you know, I haven't got it yet, but looking back into military records at various projects that I've been on, which have been associated with this project,
Mhm.
as the shadow or as the nemesis type being, and carried out. I mean, I'm not really happy about being involved in anything like that, but you find a lot of people in the super soldier community have been involved, unfortunately, in projects involving killing other people. You know,
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of the time it's when they uncover these memories, you know, they're quite shocked, and it does cause a lot of trauma. Certainly, PTSD will be involved
Yes,
because, you know,
absolutely.
because no, exactly, because no normal person. I mean, none of us as children, none of us asked to be on these projects. None of us. I don't know
No.
anyone who wants to be on projects such as
Mhm.
these.
You wouldn't even
I mean,
have that. Oh,
of course not. I mean, you know, and then to say to us, you know, by the way, you volunteered. Why the hell would we volunteer
yes.
to
Right.
be
That's
basically
so.
beaten and tortured and
Mhm.
basically, you know, I mean,
It's awful.
one of my friends in the chat room now, you know, they know who they are, and I often speak to them about this, that how I am really angry
Mhm.
that my mind was screwed with in such a way that I have now have these alters within me. And you know, every now and then they come up and they cause me problems. Not, I wouldn't say they're bad problems, but even so, for me, it's annoying, and I don't want it. You know, and
Mhm.
I'm annoyed that they've done this to me. You know, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's been involved in this is annoyed. You know, because you don't have a normal life. You ain't got a normal life. I mean, even if you wanted to have a relationship, your relationship's literally ruined
Mhm.
because of the themes that are running through you. And I mean,
Yes.
I'm not a bad person. I'm not. You know,
No, I mean, it's
I,
just horrible.
I,
And
I mean, I may have done bad things, but I can assure you, I'm not. I've got a good heart, and I'm a selfless person, and I try to help people as best I can.
well, that's evident because you're very brave with, yeah, with coming
But
forward with all of this.
you know, I want to speak up and I want to speak out. I don't care if they're unhappy with me. You know, I don't care. I mean, they can do what they want, but I want to get the truth out. And whether they like it, I know they're not going to like it
Yeah.
because they've told me more than once now what they think about me. I won't mention or comment on here what they've said to me, and you know, and what comes out of their mouths is horrifying. You know, but
Mm.
um, I mean, one of the things as well, what seems to run through as well, common denominators, what runs through people in these projects is what is that sometimes, you know, in the physical now, you're approached by people that offer you unusual jobs in unusual employment, and in fact that you don't seem to visually have the skills for. I mean, you know, a few decades ago, I was approached by some people who wanted to employ me on a project, which involved me which involved me going to Russia, to Moscow, and they wanted me to work with the Russian police, and they said that your objectives when you get there is to work alongside the Russian police in Moscow at the time, and your
Mhm.
objective is to hunt down the Russian mafia. And they said you would have two choices with working with the police, and that is one to apprehend specific members of the Russian mafia at the
Mm.
time,
Mhm.
or to terminate them or to kill them. You know, and but when you know when I had an opportunity to say whether I wanted to do that or not,
Mhm.
suddenly the offer was removed from me and the people vanished.
Mm.
And you know, I've spoken to other people in the SSP community, and they often have the same things happen to them. They have unusual requests to go to a certain
Mm.
location, to have a
Yeah.
certain interview. Speaking to
Wow.
people they don't know why they've been,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
chosen to go there.
Yeah, like
But
why
then,
would you, yeah, why
and
would you
exactly, and the theme of the interview for the job is so
Mhm.
unusual that they don't have the qualifications for it. They don't know who chose. And when they ask, they don't get told anything. And then suddenly, as soon as they get offered, it's removed, and they don't never see them again.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know in some way if it's tied up with what we do, but we don't remember. Or maybe it's somebody coming to us from another, group that then want to have a sort of eyes on us to see what we're like before they take us into the projects. Because we do know that we're sold into various projects. So what was said to me is that although Kruger International are one of those that have their hooks into me, they said that there are many intelligence agencies that have their hooks into me because many of them want to use us for their own purposes. So it looks like I was used a lot by members of the United States government, members, of intelligence agencies in the UK, and certainly a lot of agencies in Germany were using my abilities as a shadow. But, as we said, it was disabandoned in 1985 because they were unable to control me. And this has been noted as well in my military records, which are housed in many of these bases, but up above, but mostly below ground. I'm just trying to see. So they said what we discovered as well, and I think this runs along with, again, the control of me, is what was discovered as well is my medical records show that in 1987, I visited the dentist. And when I visited there was a gentleman there who was in his, like later years, who was wearing glasses. He spoke with an American accent, but he was actually identified as being non-American. We think he may be German.
Okay. Disguising his identity.
We think, I don't know, but I think he may have been a doctor who worked or was employed in some way by Tavistock Institute in London. But when we asked, we were told that, yes, this is one of the organizations that are working with these, the Illuminati and elite groups to bring about the New World Order. But what happened here was, I don't have no memory of this, by the way, but what happened here is that, and I did visit the dentist around this time, but what happened here was, on the right-hand side of my jaw, they placed an implant in the right-hand side of my jaw. This was placed in and they wanted to make sure that we understood this. It was placed in the physical body, jaw, in the physical world, and not astrally or etherically. But they did say that when looking at my records again, it shows as well through experimentation and such that I do have implants in both my physical and in my etheric field. And so they fitted this in there. And they said another one was fitted on me, which is in my right thigh. And they said this was fitted. It's actually fitted on a meridian line.
Oh my God!
So it's on a channel. It's on a specific point. I mean, we're going to learn a lot more about what this does, but one of the things we did find is it was explained this was to keep me in check, to keep me in line, to keep control of me. So on this particular part of my leg, on this particular meridian, or like chakra in a way, or dragon line, in some ways it's able to control. It's able to control my personality whilst in this body here now, in this incarnation on the earth. So what they said was, on the records, it said it was put in me by this same man in 1987. It was fitted at the same time to stop me from expressing my true nature here in this lifetime. So what else did they say? I'll just look at my notes. Just bear with me a minute, please. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. We had some questions. Do you have any idea if you're Rh negative? The rhesus side? Are you positive or negative? Do you your blood type? Would you?
Yeah,
Have
this
any?
was the question asked, wasn't it? Before, I think Chris asked this
Yes.
question, wasn't he, last time? And I said I
Yes.
wasn't sure. I don't know. I just know that there is something unusual about my DNA. I mean, they did say that my DNA is of a type of hybrid type,
Okay.
a
Yes.
mixture between two or
Okay.
more.
And then you was asked, would you divulge your age? You don't have to if you don't want to, but they're asking what your age is.
I'm 56.
Okay. All right. You don't look 56.
In human years, anyway.
Yeah. We're getting to be at we're
Yeah.
right at 2 hours. Do you want to? We probably should, we probably should just schedule you for. I mean, absolutely, we need to schedule you for. And I'm so thankful for you. Do you have anything else that you want to cover today? Briefly?
No, I think I can put something together for another show, and Anna can add the other information from Olivia. Also, by that time as well, we might be doing some other information.
Yes, because I mean, I'm thinking like, wow, just from when I had to cancel that show to now, totally different. What I thought, right? Like, I mean, just totally different. I thank you so much for this. Really, you're so brave. We'll all pray. Everybody that is prayer warriors and energy warriors that can stand,
thank you.
with Michael, we will definitely do that for you. I'm so thankful for you. You're so brave.
I appreciate you letting me come on to speak, and also for everyone coming to listen to me.
Thank you. Yes, everyone saying thank you, Michael. Yes, so we will definitely do that. And so thank you, everybody, for being here. And we will definitely schedule. I'm going to have Michael on again. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
So, all right, well, have a good night, everybody. And we will see you again and again, Michael. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, have a good night.
Bye.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.